actually made a new throttle pedal for myself, and now it's a race-winning throttle pedal. I know I'm not Chase Elliott, but I'm gonna ring my bell, and if you know, you know.
There you go. Excellent, man. And that throttle probably would help you get to that victory for sure.
Yep, that's me in 1999. I was 25. I had that old Thrustmaster wheel for about 4 or 5 years now. These are some of the games I used to play. You know, I was that kid in the 80s pumping quarters into pole position. I feel fortunate to have been able to witness the evolution of sim racing. Nowadays, we have direct drive wheels, motion platforms, active pedals, VR, and there is such a huge market of sim gear out there. So why would someone make their own?
For the good old American life. For the money, for the glory, and for the fun. Mostly for the money.
In late 2018, I was ready for an upgrade. A fellow racer of mine, Jerry, inspired quite a bit of this because he was making his own equipment and he had already helped me modify my G25 pedals, and with the wheel going under, I needed a replacement. So I went to a direct drive and a Fanatec H-pattern shifter. Realizing I'm going to actually need a wheel to mount to this direct drive base, that's when I had the inspiration to make my own wheel. And of course I threw a handbrake in to match. I mean, why not, right? We're going to rewind the clock now, and I'm going to kind of show you, now that it's been a year later, what these pedals are all about. I made a new sim racing throttle pedal. It's modeled after the pedal in my Z, and it does that. What it does though is it pulls an actual throttle body from the Z. My dummy pedal, again, dimensionally, it is the same as the Z. It's starting to get a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, but it gives me the results that I'm looking for. The blue tape is the pedal face. So here's the clutch. One spring. Boom, baby.
How come we doing this?
Well, why not?
Well, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, that's the reason, son.
We are down in the shop now, and I've got the pedals here, and the sim rig has been clearanced for these pedals because they're much larger than the old set. But unfortunately, I have not yet to install them because I have not installed the potentiometers that go on all three. That one's a dummy potentiometer, and same with this one down here. That's a dummy just for testing. But they're going to all be scavenged from the old set of pedals, which are right here. Now, these are G25 pedals, and they've been highly modified. So let me kind of give you a quick breakdown of what I did with these, and then we'll get into the new set. Now, as I stated earlier, they are G25 pedals. Basically, this piece was added. It kind of slips over the top, and then the pedal pad actually gets mounted to it. Now, what it did was it would lengthen the throw of the pedal. The throttle looks like this because I was having an issue with my foot. You know, we'd run 24-hour races or Daytonas, and where you're constantly on the throttle. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to keep these, you know, hanging, and then I wanted this to be kind of a floor mount, which is what you'd find in a normal car. So I ended up, you know, kind of converting this just to see if it would actually make my foot feel a little better. It didn't. Now to the brake, and all the potentiometers were set up this way, where this is an actual linkage arm from a RC car, and you can just get these on, you know, any website. These little brackets here, I actually had to make them work. So the clutch, like I said, is extended. The only thing difference between the clutch and the accelerator pedal is it's got this extra spring, which kind of gives it a little bit more of that clutch feel. It didn't, but it was something different than the throttle pedal. That's the only reason why I did it. Now, if we go into the brake, I'm going to remove the brake from this thing, and you can kind of see what I did here. Now, I know at first glance, you're probably thinking, what do I have going on here? Because obviously, there's a caliper. And if you look at the very top, there is a reservoir. Well, if you could kind of see inside, down into here, where my finger is, this is actually a hand grip. Imagine, you know, here's the round bar. This is where it would grip onto, and this is set up for a pit bike. Now, what I did was obviously clearanced the top section of the pedal, and I was able to get this thing mounted in with a plate that sandwiched this together, which holds it in place. That basically holds this unit down, and then the actual hand grip, where you would put your hand on a pit bike, is stuck into the pedal. So as you're pushing the pedal down, it's pushing the handbrake down. Now this knob here is basically a preload knob, and it's, I don't know if you can kind of see it, but you can, you know, there is, let me see if I can get it closer for you. This will back up and kind of preload your brake. Now, what I did too, though, is instead of using an actual rotor, it's basically a piece of steel with some rubber. And basically when it squeezes, you can see it's making that hydraulic feel. I've been using this setup for over 5 years. This thing has worked pretty much flawlessly. I love the feel of it. The tension allows me to adjust it even with my foot on the fly if need be. And it's been rock solid. So I'm sure you're asking yourself then, well, if these work so decent, why did you end up making these? Well, for starters, these look a whole lot better. And to be quite honest with you, I was having some foot problems, which is why I have such a huge pedal pad for the throttle now. And the brake and the clutch, you know, even though I was getting great feeling out of both, I knew I could improve on them. And I didn't want just levers, you know, and these are questionable if they are considered levers or not. But I wanted something as more realistic as possible, not to mention dimensionally and the way the throw is, it is mimicked on my Z car. So pedal throw, pedal dimensions, even the pedal face has been replicated. And you know, here's the thing. I knew I could modify some pedals, and I knew what it would take to make pedals, which is really the potentiometers with swing arms. I know there's load cells and, you know, Hall effect sensor stuff, which I may eventually put into these, but I knew the basis of potentiometers, reading a signal. I knew it could be done. Well, why not basically make new levers, but do them in a way where it's going to be a little bit more comfortable for you, for me rather, and you know, something to make it look cool and give it a little bit more immersion as far as you know, the pedal feels. So let me give you a breakdown. We are going to start with Watt. So after the failed floor mount attempt with the one pedal, I wanted something more comfortable. So I decided to go to the Z, and I started to come up with a couple different options. The first thing I did was I ended up making a pedal that kind of resembled the pedal of the Z. And I measured the length and distance and throw, and, you know, to get this work out right. Then I had a crazy idea, because, you know, when you're actually pushing a throttle in a car, you know, unless you have a drive-by-wire system, you know, you have the original drive-by-wire system, which is a cable. And there's a bunch of linkage and stuff that goes to it. But I figured, why not see if I have a spare throttle body, which I think I have like 3 of them. And this is actually the throttle body that was off my original throttle body in the Z. Now I do have a better throttle body for the Z, so it's not like I scavenged it and needed it. And then basically I said, you know, let me try to hook up a cable to it. So the first iteration of this was I used the upper pulley, and it was pulling the cable, and it was opening up the throttle body. The problem with that was it wasn't opening up the throttle body all the way. And I really wanted it to go wide open, hence the name. and I wanted to get the maximum amount of rotation on the potentiometer. Now you can see this is kind of loose. Now originally I was having issues with this, and this was the culprit, the little coupler. See, basically I needed a straight shaft to work. I was getting weirdness with this, and it was actually destroying the potentiometer. I was in the middle of a Talladega race, and the thing basically hung wide open. And since I've replaced this coupler, it's been fine. I haven't had an issue with it. You can see I did put a little lean back on it to give it a little bit more lean. And again, it works really good right now. I've had no issues with it. And it got a paint job cleaned up. And yeah, works really great. And now it's time for the fraternal twin brothers. We got slip and clench. Now, we're going to go talk about slip first. Now, you can see that I have a whole lot going on here. I have a double parallel arm system here. Now, the reason for that is the angle face is about 65 degrees in the Z when it's full out. When you push it all in, it goes down to about 11 degrees, or about 10 degrees, something like that. Now, think a normal pedal, you're going straight down with it, okay? So your angle might start here, but then it'll end here. This is almost straight back. Now, the reason why I had to do the double arm, though, is obviously for the pedal face. But the Z, from the pivot, it's almost 14 inches tall. And, you know, we're talking like way up here where the pivot would be. These things are crazy tall as it is. Now, I am reusing the Logitech springs. And then I added these. These are hydraulic shocks off of a RC car. And basically what they do is, these are little bitty, you know, roller wheels from probably a closet or some sort. And it's got this little block of wood that's shaped to push them down and then extend out. Now what that does is, it gives you that pressure plate feel. Now, if you look down here too, this knob and this bolt back here allows this pivot to go back or forth, or front or back, or whatever, which actually does change this. So, and then I can obviously tighten these springs up too. All those three, the block shaping, this pivot, and the spring tension, all changes the way that I can make this thing feel. So, works out pretty good. The potentiometer is going to sit right here. I've got this arm, raise the camera here. I've got this arm right here that's going to basically drive it. And we're going to show you that in a second. But now let's flip her around. Let's go to clench. Now clench, I wanted to continue with the hydraulic setup. This is a caliper and a plunge rod from a go-kart. Now this is about $30 for this, and basically what it does is, as you push the pedal, it pulls this rod. This thing only has about a ½ an inch of travel. So for me to allow the pedal, which is almost like 3-4 inches of full travel in the Z, I needed to kind of mount it like this. So obviously this bar pulls this bar and it squeezes it. Now again, I'm still using this traditional Logitech piston up here, or the spring up here, and again it's going to get the hook up. I have the bar actually here and the dummy potentiometer up there, and that's basically, it's going to operate the same way as its brother. But the way you can adjust this is, obviously you can change the throw with this. You just turn this thread about here. That is one adjustment. Adjustment number 2 is you can change what I'm using. Now right now I'm using 2 pieces of steel and a piece of rubber, not unsimilar to what I had before. And you can see it's pretty good friction. And I got maybe about 1.5 inches travel before it really starts getting tight. Now once these are mounted and I can actually lean on them, I'm sure I could even push this down a little further. I could change all kinds of stuff on here. And then if I really wanted to, I can always change this location. I could drill more holes down here, and I can actually swing this down and change that also. So yeah, that's clench. Now each one of these little handlebars, There's double bearings at the very top, double bearings on the bottom, and, you know, everything has got, you know, pretty good play and feel to it. You can see there's a little bit of play, little wiggle. Not too bad, decent enough. The throttle has almost no play whatsoever. They're much bigger bearings. But with all the linkage and whatnot, it's hard to keep it stiff. But yeah, that's how it works. Now I'm going to swap over the potentiometers. It's going to be hard to do one-handed. But yep, we got movement, no binding, thankfully. Here's the brake. Hard to do again, so I'm only doing it very small. But yep, it's working. And now slip. You can see it's moving. And all right, we're going to bring them upstairs and we're going to mount them. But before I do that, I have to make a raising plate for the bottom of these two. Just, well, you'll see. And you're probably wondering where I came up with the names. Well, let me just say, it hit me one day. So I needed to make a shift knob for my sim rig because I've been playing quite a bit of American Truck Simulator and European Truck Simulator, and the button helps for the splitter. Got my Z logo on the top, and of course, button works just fine. And here is the next piece of sim equipment that I'm getting ready to install. And when you pull the wire, it moves a little lever, and it presses a little button, and then you have a nice long cable that has a quick release, basically, which is a set of RCAs, which I found is great for a 2-pin button. This gets mounted to the board. Hey buddy, you can't park your plane here. We are upstairs now in the simulator room. You can see I got the VR headset, there's the wheel, there is my shift knob that I made, set up to the Fanatic, there's the handbrake, there is the air horn wire. Don't mind the spaghetti wire, you're going to see a lot of it. And unfortunately I ripped out the cable to that, so I got to resolder that. Looking downward, there is slip, clench, and watt. And they are down here where you'd expect them to be. I did have to put them up on little stands, mainly because the back has that metal ridge, so it needed to clear. Not to mention they were a little deeper, so they kind of had to hang over the other edge. But they're secure, very nice. There is still a little bit of play in them. This guy's still pretty solid, but not too bad. And again, there was a couple issues I did have, and I'm going to kind of show them to you right now because one of them is right in that area. Well, in full transparency, I got clench on the bench. I've been having an issue with the isolator that I've been putting in here. So, you know, I get a little bit of a squash that I want. The problem was it kept actually working its way loose, and I would have to kind of keep pushing it back in because it was pushing itself out, which is weird because I never had that issue with the old brake setup. The problem is I put a too dense of a material in here, and I went to go push on this, and I'm starting to get a split, which means this whole hangman started to bend inward. So now I have to reinforce it. I always thought that this may have been a weak point anyway, and I'm kind of glad it happened here on the bench and not in, say, a 24-hour race that's coming up next week. So I need to rectify that. Now the update on the repair is I took this stuff, which is stainless steel, pretty thick, and I've got two of them on the inside. You probably can't see them, but they're in there, and they are through bolted all the way. Now there's also a spring clip over there on the throttle pedal, and that is mainly because the potentiometer was kind of moving around, so that little spring clip, it's a band-aid, but it's been working, so I'm just leaving it as it is. But anyway, I'm going to turn on OBS. This picture was drawn, or this paint job was actually drawn by my friend Jerry, and I love it, and one of the best cars in Assetto Corsa, in my opinion. I'm going to get into the simulator now. I'm going to put the camera by my feet, and I'm going to run a lap, and you can see how they perform. So these are the new pedals, and I'm just going to calibrate them to show you what kind of resolution I'm getting. There's your gas pedal, 4,000. Brake pedal, I can get up to about 1,100. I could probably go further with it if it wasn't as tight as it was. And now the clutch pedal, I can get about 1,400. We've got decent pedal movement, pedal play right now. And yeah, this is pretty much how everything works out. The resolution is better than the old pedals, even though I'm still using the same Derek Spears board and potentiometers. So it's just the more rotation you get out of the potentiometer, the more it's going to read. The older pedals, I was barely getting 900 for each one. So now we're going to get into a lap. Alright, so I am at my very favorite track in one of my very favorite cars. This is the Mustang FR500S. You can see it up there, and we are at Olton Park. Now, I'm not going to be able to do a complete spirited lap like I'd like to do, because the way this camera is set up, I could kind of hit it with my knee, and I don't want to knock it down. So I just kind of want to show you what's going on. You could kind of pay attention to my my little thing down there. You can see where I'm at. And let's go for a ride. I got to turn off my little sky mirror. And you can kind of see that. You can almost see the butterfly opening up and closing. You should be able to see it, I hope. Now, something to say. The clutch pedal does have that action like a clutch. And you can kind of, you know, release it and kind of get yourself going here. Now, I love to run in a full manual mode, so I am using my Fanatec shifter. And something else too that I didn't really show I made, but this pedal that I got my left foot on right now, this is a pedal that probably every simulator needs to have, and that is the dead pedal. And boy, is it just nice to kind of rest your foot there when you don't need it, especially when you're at a plate race. Well, you kind of see now too, the braking, I don't really get a whole lot of brake. I don't need a whole lot of brake pressure. It does a pretty good job. I only get about maybe 2 inches of travel, 2 inches of throw. And you can see too, with the big pedal faces, it's kind of helped my foot issue that I was having a problem with. My foot would get all tired and cramped up, and with this nice pedal face, especially being all aluminum, it actually is cool to the foot. So it's kind of nice when you're in a long race and your foot doesn't actually get hot. The old brake pedal I had was wrapped up in a you know, big sock because, you know, it just was tough to do. But this ain't so bad. And you got a great option to do your heeling and towing, the way it's laid out. Now again too, these layout and the spacing of the pedals and even the pedal face is all mimicked on my Z. So it's pretty nice as far as comfortability and positioning and how everything's all set up and stuff. So I really am digging it. Now, are these the greatest pedals in the world? No. Are they the best pedals I've ever made? I would say yeah, they are. Are they the best pedals I've owned? Yeah, because I've only really owned this and the G25 set, and then everything else was, you know, even worse than a G25, you know, back in the day. So would I ever consider buying a heavier, you know, active pedals? Maybe if active pedals ever got really cheap, but that would probably be the only thing I'd ever consider getting if I were to, you know, make that swap. Let's see, what else? I do plan on upgrading these and making a little bit better set of pedals. Maybe do a full aluminum construction using a little bit bigger bearings. I like the double arm because you could kind of see a lot of the, you know, pressures I'm putting is, you know, again, it's not a lever. You're actually pushing the brake and clutch almost forward, which is more realistic, at least compared to, you know, the normal, like the Z car that I have. But, yeah, that's not too bad. Now, you notice the wiggling, too. Yeah, there's some wiggling involved, but you don't really notice, like, especially when you're braking. or even when you're heeling and towing. That's really non-existent to my knowledge that it's there. I mean, I know it's there because obviously it is, but I don't necessarily feel it during a race condition, or has it like screwed me up. So it's not too bad. But again, I would love to really put these things through the paces, and maybe I'll try here. And if the camera falls down, well, it falls down, and that'll be the end of the video. But, you know, I know, too, that good pedals really help you, or at least that's what they say. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm good at the stuff that I've always been good at, and I still struggle at the stuff that I've always struggled at. Now, if I went to a higher-end set of pedals, do I think I'm going to be even better? Probably not. It's still that foot you're looking at pressing these pedals. And I don't know. I'm a little skeptic. You know, since I went to a direct drive wheel 7-something years ago, that's really hasn't made me that much better. The immersion's better, the feeling's better, and I can say the same with the pedals. So it's really all up to you. And it's really all up to the driver. I mean, you've seen guys win championships with G25 setups, you know, and it's the driver more than the equipment. And, you know, some may argue the other way, and maybe in some circumstances, it's going to definitely make you a little better. Is it going to change you to a superstar? I doubt it. See if I can get a little spirited action going on here and see what we can do. See my ghost in the mirror. Oh, there I am. Much better exit. All right, I think that'll do it. What else is on deck, though? Well, again, I'm going to make 2 new wheels. I'm going to make a GT style, and then I'm going to make a new round NASCAR wheel. This gauge cluster, though, is going to go with what's behind it. This is a Buick dashboard from my old convertible. And this is going to be basically the basis of the new sim racing dashboard. But I'm not going to end there, because I've been working on setting up turn signals. So yeah, turn signals, wiper arm. Alright, and that's it. Well, I hope you guys liked the pedals. I need to make sure they all work, and I think we're going to be fine, to be honest. But stay tuned if you want to see more sim products. I have a lot more fun stuff that's coming your way, and eventually, I still got the Z to work on. But right now, this kind of brings me a little bit closer because the pedal placement's the same. So it'll be kind of fun when I do some drifting in the Seto and get all that moving. But we guys will see you on track. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one.